Hello, I didn't see you there. My name is Ellen Leslie. I am a professional classical singer, and I am the soprano section leader at the Episcopal Church of St. Mary the Virgin in Cow Hollow in San Francisco. If you don't sing regularly, and even if you do, then hymn singing can feel really exposed. It's easy to feel self-conscious, especially now that we're all separated, and you probably don't have several rows of parishioners singing behind you right now. But singing is a great joy, and it doesn't need to feel awkward. In this video, I'm going to give you a look at the basic anatomy of how the voice functions, and some tips to help you feel more comfortable singing in church, or at karaoke night, or just in the shower. Let's go. Here's the thing about singing. Your whole body is your instrument. The voice can be broken down into several main systems. So first, we have the air pressure system. This produces and sustains the air pressure to make vocal folds vibrate. And this includes more than just your lungs. This also includes the diaphragm muscle, this massive muscle at the bottom of your rib cage, your chest muscles, your ribs, your abdominal muscles, so all these parts of the body that kind of help control and regulate your breathing. Next is the vibratory system. This is exactly what it sounds like. It's the part of the system that vibrates or buzzes to change the air pressure into sound waves. So it's also the part of the system that varies the pitch. This includes the vocal folds, or vocal cords. These are about 1/2 inch to 1 inch long, depending on your gender and your unique anatomy. These are two tiny little miracles. The air blows through and the vocal folds vibrate. Have you ever done that thing where you take a blade of grass and you poke a hole in the middle of it and you blow through and go and it makes a pitch? Or you can kind of blow into 2 pieces of paper and it does the same thing. It's exactly the same principle with your vocal folds. So your lungs and your whole respiratory system blow the air through your vocal folds and they vibrate and they make sound. So men's vocal folds vibrate from 100 to 150 times per second, and women's at about twice that rate. So that means that you would never actually see these vibrations unless you were watching it in slow-mo. They can also stretch to make higher pitches, and then they get shorter when you have lower notes. So kind of like if you take a rubber band and you're playing on it, then it's going to be higher the tighter and longer it gets, and it's going to sound lower if it's looser and shorter. The resonating system is next. So this is the part of the system that changes those buzzy vibrations that the vocal folds are doing and turns them into what we recognize as a vocal sound. So those resonating chambers include the inside of your mouth and your soft palate at the back of your mouth, the hard palate at the front of your mouth, your whole throat, and also your nasal cavity, all the way up here into your sinuses. So a lot of components to that system. And finally, the articulatory system. So this is how you form words. This includes your lips, your tongue, and the muscles around the embouchure of your mouth. Now that you have a general idea of how the voice works, let's put it into practice and do some singing. Warming up the body is a great way to start warming up the voice. So before we start singing, do some jumping jacks, do a little yoga, do a little dance, go for a jog, do something to get the blood moving. Your face actually does a lot of work when you're singing, so you can stretch it out too. Try making a really big face and exaggerate all of your features. Try making a really small face, like you just ate a lemon. You can make chewing motions. You can even do a little bit of vocal massage. Sanitizer, please. Thank you. Now I can touch my face. Great. So you can actually take your entire throat here and massage along the sides gently, just to get it nice and loosened up, and then you can move further up onto your face. Massage your cheeks. You can massage under your chin. Whatever feels good and helps you feel nice and loosened up and ready to sing. Now let's find a good singing posture. To demonstrate, I'm going to need a willing volunteer from the audience. Eric, how about you? Excellent. So, the vocal mechanism, which is your entire body, is kind of like a straw. If it's bent, then the voice won't come out freely. And not only will that be more difficult for you, but it also won't sound as good. So you want the body to feel supportive, but also not tight or held. If you're standing, you'll want to find a good positioning for the feet so that you feel grounded. To find that, try rocking too far forward onto the balls of your feet, and then try rocking too far back onto the heels. Now find that neutral, happy medium where you feel supported, grounded, ready to sing. If you're sitting down, you'll want to maintain a relaxed neck, and then feel like there's a string pulling up the crown of your head. You also want to feel your sit bones grounding oppositionally into the chair or pew, so that you're creating this open, nice lined up canister for the voice. In either case, you're going to want to hold up your hymnal nice and high. So you'll need to find a good positioning for your head and your chin. To find this, gently hold your head in your fingertips, and then rock it gently back and forth, forward and back. So one side will probably feel stretched, the other side will feel crunched. So go to those two extremes. Crunched in the front, stretched in the back, vice versa. And then try positioning it with micro adjustments until you find where it's in a nice neutral position in both the front and the back. Chances are that's probably going to be a little higher than you're used to holding your chin. My voice teacher always says to sing to the second balcony of the opera house, not the first balcony. You can also practice singing to the top of a tall bookshelf or an exit sign if there's one available. Generally, you just want to be a little higher up than you think, because that's actually the most free position for the voice to come out. So hold that hymnal nice and high, keep your head up. There you go. Sometimes we have to kneel while we're singing in church. I don't have too many tips for that because that's hard for everybody, so sorry, just try to maintain that posture. Breath is the most important component of singing and living. Breathing is the most natural thing in the world, and it should still feel nice and easy when we're singing. You don't need to feel like you need to gas up and get this massive gulp of air in order to be able to sing. Instead, you just need to think about breathing a little bit differently when you're singing. We often talk about breathing low. What does that mean? Well, it's the opposite of breathing high, which is when you take really shallow breaths up here in the chest. That's not going to be very efficient for singing. To feel that low breath, try this. Take your hands and raise them up to the ceiling with your palms facing inward, like you're holding a giant beach ball, so that you can feel your ribs expanding on either side. Now take a nice, slow, deep breath. It's impossible to take a shallow breath in this position, so any breath you take here is going to automatically be a low breath. Great. Now, keep breathing low as you lower your arms, and maintain that low breath as we continue these exercises. In addition to that low breath, you'll also want the support of some of these lower abdominal muscles. Here are some exercises to help feel that engagement. So go ahead and take a hand, put it on your low belly, and repeat after me. See how much your hand moves and how much these muscles move. You can also try doing lip trills like I was doing at the beginning of this video. You can do them on scales. You can't really do a proper lip trill without that lower abdominal engagement, so it's a really good way to check in and see if that support is firing. If you happen to have some illegal contraband on hand, a plastic straw, you could use metal, paper might work, I haven't tried it. You can even try singing into this straw. It takes so much low breath and breath pressure to do that, so that's also a good way to check in with your support system. If you don't have a straw, you can also puff up your cheeks like a pufferfish and try doing it that way. Same principle, just an imaginary straw. I mentioned the soft palate earlier. It's part of the resonating system, so it helps create space. This is the tissue at the back of your mouth that's flexible enough to raise and lower. Keeping it lifted when we sing creates a nice tall space at the back of the mouth for, in turn, a nice tall sound. To isolate the feeling of the soft palate lifting, try the following. You can say sing-ah, sing-ah. That little flip between the ah, that's your soft palate lifting. You can snort like a pig, or snore, and feel that soft palate lifting. It kind of tickles. You can imagine drinking through a straw, or actually drink through a straw. So when you drink through a straw, the soft palate automatically lifts. This is to prevent the liquid from going up into your nasal cavity, but it also can isolate that feeling of the soft palate lifting. And you can imagine taking a big bite of an apple. I don't have a real apple. Here's my imaginary Honey Crisp. Go ahead and take a nice big bite. Feel how much space your mouth is creating to accommodate that big apple, and feel the soft palate lifting up in the back. It's kind of like your mouth is a C, the letter C. So here's your mouth, and then here's the back of the mouth. The soft palate is just lifting to create more space at the back there. So it's basically like imagining your mouth to be a C, a cave, a dome, a cupola, anything that has that nice tall ceiling. Where should you feel the placement of your voice? It might not actually be where you expect. So imagine your voice is coming out of your forehead like a unicorn horn. This is a handy straw today. Renee Fleming, in her book, actually calls the sensation of the voice coming out of her as serving spaghetti to the audience on a plate, but the spaghetti is shooting out of her forehead. Really bizarre. Singers use a lot of weird metaphors. So the goal here is to find a placement for the voice that's a little bit higher. What we don't want is for the voice to feel really far back in the throat, because that's going to create unnecessary tension. It's going to sound really swallowed, and it just won't sound as pretty. Placing it in the mask is actually how opera singers are able to project over a whole orchestra. This is finding that exact positioning where we can, boom, shoot the spaghetti out of the unicorn horn and serve it to the audience. Now let's talk about vowels. Vowels are the clothesline of singing, and consonants are the little clothespins. Do people still use those? I hope so. So the clothesline of vowels, a, e, I, o, u, is actually primarily formed with the tongue, not with the lips. This means that you don't need to over-exaggerate the motions. A, e, o, u is just way too much. So try taking your mouth, your jaw, keeping it nice and loose. You can even kind of shake your head back and forth like this, and see if you can isolate the feeling of changing the vowels with only your tongue as much as possible. Your lips are going to need to move a little bit too, but see how much you can keep in the tongue. I, o. I love this exercise because it's really cool to feel those micro adjustments that your tongue makes to change the sound of the vowel, and how little the lips actually have to do with it. If you get really freaked out by high notes, trust me, you're not alone. But chances are it's actually well within your reach. So how do you actually prepare for that high note? The worst thing you can do is tense up and strain for that high note and just try to squeeze it out, because that's not going to happen. Maybe this is counterintuitive, but you actually probably want to relax into the high note. What this means is finding your nice posture, taking a nice low breath, feeling that engagement firing. Get your mouth in a nice open position, find a comfortable vowel that works for you, and let her rip. If you want to practice singing up to a high note, you can try sing-ah to get the soft palate lifted. Sing-ah, and keep going. Sing-ah, etc., so that you can pop up to those high notes and feel that sensation. Let's talk for a minute about vocal health. A healthy body makes for a healthy voice. Singers are athletes. Exercise is really important for singing, especially cardio, because cardio will expand your lung capacity and your endurance. Great for those 7-verse hymns on Sunday mornings. And yoga is also wonderful because it will help tune you into how the different parts of your body work together with your breath. Hydration, always super important, and I always have my water bottle with me. Something that you might not know is that drinking water right before you sing doesn't help you in the way that you might expect. When you drink water, it lubricates some parts of your voice system, so your throat and your mouth, but never the vocal folds themselves until it's worked itself into the rest of your body. That's because the voice box isn't connected to the esophagus. The epiglottis, which is the lid that keeps anything you consume from getting into your lungs, also keeps that from getting into your vocal folds. But when you drink water, or when you swallow at all, it relaxes your larynx. So if you ever find that your singing is getting really tight and tiring and very tense, you might just want to take a pause, take a sip, and feel that relaxation. Sleep is obviously super important. You're not going to sing well if you've only had 3 hours of sleep, and you probably won't function at all if you've had 3 hours of sleep. I certainly can't. It's also really hard to sing early in the morning. You're not the only one who struggles to sing that first hymn on Sunday mornings. And that's because your voice takes a while to wake up too. So if you do a couple lip trills in the car or in the shower in the morning, that might help with that as well. A question I'm often asked is whether there are certain foods or drinks that you should or should not consume right before you sing. And the short answer to that is that it's completely different for everybody. A lot of singers find that they don't like to consume dairy right before they sing, or even for a few days beforehand, because they feel that it produces more mucus on their vocal folds. But then again, there's a famous tenor, Nicolai Gedda, who apparently only drank milk backstage before he sang. Worked for him, that's great. A lot of people avoid drinking coffee or alcohol because they find that it dries out their vocal folds and their vocal system. But then again, there's apparently a German soprano who likes to keep beer on stage behind the set pieces so that in the middle of a scene she can grab it and have a nice little refreshment, put it back. So again, it's going to be completely different for everybody. As long as you take care of your body, you're probably taking care of your voice as well. With that, friends, happy singing, wash your hands, drink your water, and God bless.